Well, we've been waiting on this moment, and Bubba, it's here now. Dave Ramsey is joining the Rick and Bubba show. Dave, how are you?
Well, I am better than I deserve, my friend. How are you guys holding up?
Well, we're celebrating. I'm glad you finally let your employees out of the hostage situation that you had them in.
Well, I'm kind of known for that, just mistreating them. That's why we win Best Place to Work every year, is because we mistreat our team.
Yes, you've been
and
like
Dave,
that.
I know for years you've told people to have a 90-day emergency fund. Hey, you meant it, didn't you?
Well, you meant it.
Like, whoop, wasn't kidding. Yeah.
So this is odd, Dave, and I've been worried about you. You know, I just this week bought some whole life insurance and leased a truck, and looking back at that, maybe that wasn't the best move. But no, all kidding aside, so I know with Financial Peace University, I do want everyone to look at the website and go to daveramsey.com/hope. They're giving away a 14-day free trial of Financial Peace University. Also doing a free Financial Peace live event Thursday night, which is coming up with Dave and also Chris Hogan. All that information is there at daveramsey.com/hope. Even the plans, Dave, that you've put out there, boy, I talked to a buddy of mine that has a business, and I said, well, why are you not just using your line of credit to get you through? Don't we do that for, different things with cash flow? And he said, Rick, that is set up for cash flow. There's nothing set up for no income. There's no cash coming in. It's a little different now.
Yeah, businesses are either like people. They're either in that boat where they're just basically shut down revenue. They're in a kind of a middle range where they're hanging on, which is kind of where Ramsey's been. Our revenues are only off about 8% total. We've had some increases in some areas, some deep decreases in other areas. So, and then there's the group that are actually booming.
Yep.
I talked to a guy who owns a heat and air company the other day. He said record sales. Because everybody's at home wanting their thermostat fixed and their heat and air fixed and whatever. And certainly delivery things and grocery stores. And God knows if you're in the toilet paper business, you just became a millionaire, And you got businesses that have actually, they're booming in this. They've seen an uptick. So, it just depends on which area you find yourself in as to how you have to react. Personally, you could be in those same things. You could be out of a job or kind of in the middle or really having this is turning out to be a good thing financially for you.
Dave, a couple of questions, and we had talked earlier when all this was going down. Immediately, we said, I wonder what Dave thinks about this. So that's why we wanted to have you on to get your opinion on some of this. Some of the programs that are out there, and we can talk about what the government's doing, if it's right or wrong on the big scale and debt-wise and all that. But on a personal level, stimulus checks are coming to some people. Some people are in the PPP program if you're a small business. And even more so, payment deferment plans on mortgages. Talk a little bit about that. Is that a good thing? Is that something we need to look out for, the hidden, thing behind the curtain, or how do you view those?
Well, the problem is that people let their emotions, they hear forbearance or deferment on my mortgage, and their emotions tell them I don't have to pay my payment. But if you'll use your intellect instead of your emotions, you'll say, oh, crap, I'm not going to pay the payment for 3 months, and then they're going to want all 4 months in September, and I'm going to be up a creek with no paddle. And so don't do that. If there's any way, your first thing you should pay, no matter what, in this situation is food. The second is lights and water. And the third is shelter. Don't put off your rent if you can pay it. Don't put off your mortgage if you can pay it, even if you're being offered the ability to kick the can down the road. Because, by the way, when you get down the road, the can's going to be there. Hello. So, you don't want to get in that situation. I understand some people have to. But be worried about it. I mean, be upset about it because it's going to come and hit you in the face later. So that one, the same thing with the student loan. You've got student loan interest forgiveness and payment forgiveness. And so everybody's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to put my hands over my ears and go la, 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 and pretend like there's no life until I had September when the interest kicks in again. No. If you've got money and you've got steady jobs, use the fact that there's no interest and pile on right now and get that student loan evicted. Get Sally Mae out of your house. My God, quarantine, she's been hanging out with you. This is ridiculous.
So that was I think you hit on it. You see people who actually have income and they're so panicked, they're buying into these programs when their income is still coming in.
Exactly.
And as you said, and that was the thing that I thought of, those payments are not, they didn't take them away from you. They just deferred them, which means you should really only do that if you don't have any way to pay them, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And there's some things that make sense. I mean, if you're running a business, the one that we are doing is the payroll deferment.
Yeah.
We don't have to pay the employer portion of the payroll tax through the end of the year, but then we do have to pay it. We're kicking that can down the road over the next 3 years. But that helps us with cash flow right now and pile up some extra cash to make sure that these people's jobs are protected. Doesn't cost us a dime. We just have to cash manage that. That's not a problem. The PPP, on the other hand, I got guys that I know who are anti-government, hate borrowing money, and they're all signing up for the PPP. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's a loan. It has terms. It has an interest rate. It is only forgiven if you jump through all the hoops and do a Tiger King shimmy. I mean, you're not going to get out of the thing. It's not, it is ridiculous. The bill is as thick as a phone book, and no one that voted on it read it, and no one that's making the loans or taking the loans has read it. I mean, they've got some basic guidelines. If you keep employment up, it's no problem. And everybody's acting like this is free money. It's all going to be forgiven. It's the SBA, which is the DMV of the financial world. You cannot count on these people to not change the game. You cannot count on these people to have actually read the bill and know what the crap they're making the loans on. I'm telling you, these churches taking the PPP, the government you are the borrower, slave of the lender. You're setting yourself up. Please don't do this and act like it's no big deal because it's just going to be forgiven, Dave. You just don't understand. Yeah, I do understand. I've watched these people change the rules before. You remember that time when the student loans were going to be forgiven if you worked 10 years in an underserved area, but nobody's had them forgiven? Yeah, I remember that time.
Yeah, I was also, even though they tried to save it, I also bought into the PAC program in my state. And strangely enough, all of a sudden, the value of the PAC program when my kid went to college, there was one time it went away completely, and you thought you may not get it at all, and then they came back and said, well, to save it, we had to give you less. So, yeah, the government will always change the arrangement, even on the best-looking deal.
Yeah, and so the easiest thing is not be beholden to them. Don't borrow money. And again, it's like the other thing we said. Some people are going to have to defer a mortgage. Some businesses may have to. But I've got a friend who's sitting on a pile of cash, and he took it out, and he's just laughing at me like, "You're just missing out on the free money, Ramsey. They're going to forgive it." And I'm like, "No, doofus, I ain't signing up again. I've had enough people call my house that when I couldn't pay my bills, and I don't need the SBA or the government or any combination of the two. And God help us, some stupid butt bank in the middle of my business ever again. No, thank you."
Dave, on the deferment plan, what about those that defer it to the end of the loan? Are there variances in that? You were talking about the forbearance, which is, you said would, rightly so, you'd all be due at the end of the 90 days or whatever you agreed to. But what about those that are rolling that to the end of the loan? It's not a good financial move. You're better off to get out of that sooner rather than later. But if you have to do something, that's fine. But here's the danger with that. Here's what's happening out here in the real world. When our customers, we're working people in crisis, obviously coaching and helping them right now. Right.
And we're calling, the mortgage company says, well, just don't make the payment and we'll figure it out. It'll either be a forbearance or we'll kick it to the end. They're not committing to it.
Right.
And you know what that means? You're going to have 4 payments due in September. That's what that means.
They're going to choose the deal that's good for them, not you, right?
Yeah, I speak Wells Fargo. That's what they're really saying.
Right. Well, you've been
fluent in that language.
What Dave is trying to tell you is, if you're not in that situation and you're just thinking this is going to be, I don't know, some
free money.
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's never going to turn out that way. And now, if you're in a desperate situation, you may not have a choice.
Dave, I think too, a lot of people may have had their money coming in or expected it to stop or just didn't know. And, anytime you're in a crisis situation, and again, and we've joked about it here, this is our first pandemic. We don't know how to act. We don't have a game plan. We'll know next time. But I think a lot of people were just wanting to try to get as much cash on hand as they could, because in a crisis, cash is king.
Well, that's true. And the more volatile or unstable your situation is, the more extreme move you ought to make to get that cash on hand. And so, 8 weeks ago, if you were working in a restaurant, it would have been a real good idea to pile up a bunch of cash, right?
Right.
Obviously, we know that now. But right now, if listening to us is a FedEx driver and his wife is a teacher, you're not going to lose your jobs in this.
Right.
You don't have to. I know there's a hurricane outside, but
Right.
you're okay. You're okay. Calm your butt down. Don't be going into stupid land because you watch the news too much.
And you have been through that. You remember life in financial disaster. I mean, I know it's not a lot of fun, but you learn from it. So let's talk about learning from this.
You know, I remember tearing down a deck with my grandpa Ramsey, which was one of my favorite people on the planet. In 1970, I was 10 years old, and I'm pulling a nail out of one of the boards, and I started throwing the nails over in the trash. And he stopped me, and he taught me how to straighten the nail out, keep it, a used nail, and throw it into a coffee can. And as I got to know him later, that was like the metaphor of his life. He learned from the Great Depression to be frugal. Right. And save money. And consequently, his life was completely changed for the positive financially because he learned the lessons of a very hard time that was his teacher. That was a corporate hard time, meaning the whole culture experienced it at once. Sometimes we individually go through it. You go through a nasty divorce or a job loss, or you lose a business, or like I went broke when I was 28 because I was stupid. And the lessons I learned from that changed my life in a positive way. And so we're making very sure that no one at Ramsey, none of our personalities or anybody saying, I told you so, you should have had an emergency fund. We're not going to say that, but we are going to say, hey, if you're hurting right now, that's your wake-up call. Answer the bell, because that's meaning that stuff is going to happen in this life, and having an emergency fund, being out of debt, being on a budget is the best way to prosper in good times and in bad times. And so this idea that you can just spend like you live on Instagram, you've got to stop it. And you spend like you're in Congress, you got to stop it. And this is your wake-up call, so answer the bell. There's always something good that comes from pain if you'll look for it, and it's transformative.
Yeah.
Well, and Dave, you make a good point. Even though we're dealing with a pandemic and it's historic now, in personal lives, that people are still going to get sick. People are still going to have layoffs. People are still going to have, jobs, a reduction in force and things like that. So even though we're dealing with a pandemic now, there's always those mini pandemics that come to life personally that, is not going to get the headlines, but it's a big deal to you.
Yeah. I mean, what's major surgery? Surgery happes to me.
Right.
Surgery happens to you, and that's when it's not corporate, when it's not culture wide, and so over here's got trouble. We all just look at them and go, oh, that's so sad. I'm so sorry my friend's going through that. But you don't feel it. You don't necessarily get the lesson from them going through it, but everybody's got their wake up call now. And you don't need to be smug if you've been doing Dave Ramsey for 20 years and you had your emergency fund and you were debt free. You just need to be helpful to those that haven't done it yet and say, hey, let's use common sense, God's and grandma's ways of handling money. And this is your lesson, and take the lesson, pass the test this time. You flunked it before.
Melanie in Albertville has a question that you can ask Dave. Melanie, go ahead. What's your question?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Rick, for taking my call.
Sure. My pleasure.
And also, Bubba got me kind of scared, I guess. Not really scared, but thinking about some things this morning when he was talking about Social Security and, how the government borrows from itself. And, of course, they're the ones that back the banks and insure our money that is in the banks. Okay. Well, if you have a good bit of money in the bank, do you feel like it's a good idea to leave it in the bank? Should it be put somewhere else?
Okay, no, so let's talk about banks.
Perfectly safe there. The FDIC is a lot stronger now. The insurance process that the government uses to back the banks is much stronger now than it's ever been. The only time I would have worried about it, and I worried about it for about 30 seconds, was back in 2008. And the FDIC was on a bubble. They had some financial issues there, but the good news is they learned from that problem, and they're stronger now. That kind of thing is not in jeopardy right now. You're perfectly safe, darling. Don't worry about it.
Fairhope, Alabama. Let's go to Jody. Jody, go ahead. You're on with Dave Ramsey.
Yes, Dave. We've taken your course, your financial peace course in the past, and I was just wondering what you thought about this concept. We have our emergency fund, and we took the payment deferral on our mortgage, but we have the money to make the payments. And if they come up in 4 months and say, here's the money, we can make the payment. However, if they decide to tack it on to the end of the loan, I'm able to then pay off my truck and car. What do you think of that?
It's not the end of the world. I mean, in essence, what you did, you borrowed on your house to pay off your truck and your car. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't ever tell you to go get a new mortgage on your house to do that, as you know from going through the course. But, I mean, it's not the end of the world. The whole thing is this. You're paying attention. You're thinking, okay? What I don't want you to ever do is try to find a way where you're going to beat them at their game, because they are really good at their game.
Look, Dave, you've said it. My brother said it too. I still remember the day you said, if you don't believe what Dave just said, look at the biggest buildings. If you have a skyline in your city, and you'll see the logos that are on those buildings, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, they're banks and life insurance companies.
Let's go to Gary in Huntsville, 100.3 The River. Gary, you're on with Dave Ramsey. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, buddy.
I was wondering if it would come back and bite me in the butt if I refinance my mortgage.
Refis, interest rates are low. Where are you on the refi, Dave?
It's a great time to refinance. We always recommend a 15-year fixed rate. And if you can do that and get a lower interest rate, that is a reason to refinance. And the way you do it is the difference in your interest rate today versus the interest rate you would get. Let's say you had a 4 today and you could get a 3. That's a 1% difference on $100,000. That's $1,000 a year saved. If the closing costs are $2,000, it takes 2 years to break even before there's any gravy on the biscuit. So if you're not going to stay in the house longer than 2 years to hit that break even, then you don't do it. But if you're going to stay in a home and you can save on interest rate, it's a great time to refinance.
Dave, let me ask you this, because I know we're about out of time. On the big scale, I know you're not a fan of the government printing money, but how is $6 trillion dumped into our economy? How is that going to shake out, do you think?
I don't think we'll notice. I really don't. I mean, you think about all the different things that are going to be done with it and the way people are handling it and mishandling it. I don't think you're going to stand back and go, oh, it was stimulus. Stimulus is the wrong word for it. Political favoritism to make everybody calm down. That's what they should have named the bill.
You're right. You're right.
That's a hard sell, but I agree.
I know the definition of stimulus, and this doesn't look that way. Thanks a lot, Dave Ramsey. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Honored to be with you.
Yeah, always. Don't forget, DaveRamsey.com/hope. They're giving away a 14-day free trial of Financial Peace University and doing a live Financial Peace event this Thursday night. DaveRamsey.com/hope.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.